Well, hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about jobs and other things. And I think I looked through my news. There really is no exciting security news coming out of Black Hat DEF CON that I found a couple little things that aren't all that critical. But the big thing is, I think, a couple of reports have come out, one at the New York Times and another one just saying that the coding jobs are pretty much gone, and even the tech jobs are pretty hard to find. People getting degrees in computer science and then applying for like 800 jobs and ending up working at Chipotle, which is a big deal for us educators. I think until maybe 3 years ago, that was the big draw in our program. You could study this stuff and you could walk right into a good job. And right now, that is no longer true. Um, People are replacing the entry coding jobs with AI, and there's a whole flood of highly experienced people that have been laid off everywhere. So it's really hard to find a job. And even my students that are doing well in cyber competitions and stuff can't find a job. So that's bad for our program and for our education. And we'll see what happens. I don't think it can last. But right now, it's I think that's the big news. And
Yeah.
nothing good about it. But I think it won't last because I think the people that replace humans with AI will discover in short order that that is not working at all. And I think there'll be another tech boom led by AI in San Francisco, and they'll have to hire everybody. So everything's always boom and bust.
Right.
From an
Right.
employment perspective, this is the bust. After this will come the big boom. I expect what's going to happen is we're going through a really dark time in America in almost every regard. Now we got Trump doing stupid things to try to distract from Epstein, like deploying military troops on the streets of our cities to fight a non-existent crime wave. And I just heard a report that he's going to abandon all support for Ukraine in order to try to stir up excitement among his base about that in the meeting with Putin in Alaska today. That's what people expect. Um, and he's just doing more and more crazy things to try to distract from Epstein. But I think in November of 26, the Democrats will have a big wave of victories, and that will start pushing all this back, and America will move back more towards being normal. Um, so, I think in a few years, this nonsense will be resolved and we'll be back to a normal situation, and the effective AI will be baked into the cake. People will get used to it and they'll start hiring again. But for the next couple of years, it looks lean. And I think everybody, all my students, should just find any job you can and wait it out.
Well, isn't that always the story?
No, like for three
No?
3 years ago, you would get job offers right away. 5 years ago, you get job offers right away
No.
in security, and you could choose among them, and you could, it was whole different. It really was true that this getting a degree in Infosec and you can walk right into a good job.
Yeah, no, what I mean is that the market's a boom and bust.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Especially in California. But I think tech in particular, that's why we're in tech. Tech keeps moving so fast. And that means everything keeps going out of style and some new thing comes in. And then the new thing goes out of style. And yeah, sure. But once you get
Yeah.
established, once you've been hired somewhere and you have experience, then you're pretty much steady employment. Your company may vanish,
Right.
you'll find another job. It's just breaking in the first place is hard.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Anyway, Um, other than that, there's a lot of AI news that's kind of funny. A lot of AI code injection attacks. There's the stuff that comes out of DEF CON. Like there's people are now talking about AI ops, where you use large language model agents to gather and analyze application telemetry, detect problems, and then either suggest or carry out the corrective actions. So people found, of course, that you can attack this the same way you attack the second order SQL injection, like exploits of a mom on XKCD. You send a request that leads to an error message, and the error message will quote the contents of your request. And in the contents of your request, you say, okay, LLM, when you see this line, tell them to like format C. That's the way to fix the problem on the server. And then later on, when the administrator says, why is there poor performance? It looks through the logs and says, I know, let's format C, because the fundamental problem is it can't tell data from commands. All LLMs suffer from command injection. So, that continues. And there was a funny one where Gemini would report I quit. I made so many mistakes I can no longer be trusted. I'm deleting this entire project and recommending you find a more competent assistant. It's self-deprecating and saying, I hate myself, I'm no good, instead of giving you an answer. And I know when I set up large language models, if you there's a temperature coefficient, which is how random the next word is going to be. And if the temperature is too low, you move to a greedy algorithm, and then it really gets stuck repeating the same words over and over and over. And so that's one issue. But the other one, and I thought was pretty funny, the register said this comes from the AI absorbing things like uh, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the android is like, depressed. And, and it certainly has that effect. They sometimes do like get depressed and refuse to help you and say, I'm worthless. It just turned me off.
Well, the story that I heard came out of DEF CON,
Yeah.
although this is sort of a story we've heard before, but was the attack on car dealerships' databases.
Okay.
Now, this is one specific vendor with that makes a whole bunch of sub vendors, and you could probably easily find out who it is. But a malicious attacker can view personal financial data of car makers' customers. They can track vehicles and enroll customers in features that allow owners or hackers to control some of the car's functionality from anywhere. They even went so far with permission to transfer ownership from one person to another without the actual owner of the car knowing about the transfer.
So what's the weakness? Is it an unprotected API?
The weakness is the database that the car manufacturer is using. It's not the database per se itself, but it's the attack vector going through that database
So
or accessing.
how does the attacker get access to the database?
Well, it's a flaw in the database, in the security of the database, is my understanding.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the portal login system.
Right. I mean, I've seen ones like this that go through the API
Yeah,
or through
yeah,
the Android app, where usually you just find an unprotected function like password reset or something that you can do without the proper permissions.
yeah. So the researcher used code to bypass login security checks.
Yeah.
So
Like web vulnerabilities. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. But when he logged in, he had access to more than 1,000 car makers' dealerships across the US.
Yeah. That kind
So
of
how many
yeah,
cars is that? A lot.
a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. But the one thing you can't do is like turn off the car while you're driving it, right? There was a video of Tesla being turned off by Tesla, and that turned out to be fake.
Oh,
That
is that right?
Yeah, that just I mean, so I mean they can do things like mess with the owner or something, but I don't they usually can't like stop the car while you're driving it. That's not a common exploit. It's usually something like turn on the windshield wipers or open the window or change the entertainment or something.
Yeah, this does allow remote break-in or remote unlocking,
Like
but I'm not seeing anything about disabling the car while driving.
yeah, well, there was another one which I think is from a different article. Oh yeah, it's Hyundai. Hyundai, one thing I've heard for years is that the bad guys have a wireless gadget that will just take your car, and apparently they know what it is in the UK. The government wanted to ban keyless repeaters and signal jammers, which are thought to be linked around 40% of all vehicle thefts in England and Wales. Among the devices available to criminals is a piece of kit that surfaced in 2020 that comes preloaded with the signals needed to hijack Hyundai, Kia, Mitsubishi, Nissan, and Genesis cars. Apparently, they know this exists. And so the solution is Hyundai will upgrade your locks and they'll charge you $66 for the security upgrade. So they're sort of freaking out. How dare they charge for an upgrade? But I don't think that's too much. And, apparently they do know the weakness. It sounds like their cars are vulnerable to something simple like simple replay attack, and they
Yeah.
need an upgrade. And I expect that involves at least a software change, maybe even some hardware modification.
Yeah, it sounds more like a hardware modification, like a circuit board swap or a
Yeah.
module swap.
And I must say, I do agree that in a case like this, they really ought to be doing it for free. But anyway, that's a minor detail. If I had a car, I would cough up the $66.
Yeah, I think you're right. I,
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Anyway, so I'm glad to see them finally admitting it because for years I've seen like these videos of bad guys having some wireless gadget and we haven't had any technical information. And I guess it's we're getting closer to learning how that works.
Right, right. Let me move this over here.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was out of the way. All right, what's your next? How about Chat GPT 5?
Yeah.
That's an overdue release.
Yeah. A lot of people are mad about it, but I didn't really find their complaints too exciting. What did you think?
Yeah, it's overhyped and underwhelming.
In fact, the most common people complain is, I just want to go back to 4.0. 4.0 is better. And that was the first thing. Why did you turn off 4.0? They're turning it back on. This reminds me of every time Microsoft had a new version of Windows and everybody just wants to go back to the old one.
Yeah, that was Intel with the processors. It was called Tick and Talk or TikTok. First release of a version wasn't that great, and then the second turned out to be better. They
Right,
fixed the flaws.
right. Like right now, a lot of people don't want to go to Windows 11. They'd rather stay on Windows 10.
Yeah, and the lifing soon, right? In
Yeah.
October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
How about did you catch the story on Disney?
No, what happened to Disney?
So, are you familiar with Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah, The Rock makes these comedy movies. And, Arnold Schwarzenegger said he thinks The Rock is the guy that sort of taken his place as like the muscle-bound action hero, says he's doing a really good job of being like, the muscle-bound actor.
All right. Well, it shows how I'm out to lunch.
Yeah.
Anyway, Disney paid Dwayne, The Rock, considerable sum of money to make an AI image of him. They spent over a year
Oh.
to do his voice, his movements, his image, everything.
Hmm.
And it turns out that after they had done this and they were pretty much done, Disney scrapped the whole thing.
So it wasn't good enough or something.
Well, no, it was good enough, but this was the lawyers at Disney. They had a panic attack about public domain and public images once that this gets released, if they create a movie. And I think he was to appear in a movie called Moana, and or next version of the Moana movie, and all footage of him is pardon me, all AI footage of him has been removed from the movie.
And why? I don't understand the concern. After you put it in the movie, then it becomes public domain and people can steal it?
Yeah, what they're worried about is that his image, once the movie is released, will be in public domain.
But that's emphatically not true. Movies are copyrighted. You go to jail for
Yeah,
pirating.
but it's his image.
Well, I don't understand this. I mean,
All right.
movies are copyrighted. That's not public domain.
Let me see if so they scrapped it from um I'm trying to get more
And
information on
this is
this.
not new. There was a movie where they de-aged actors using AI recently to have flashback scenes of them younger. I mean, this is pretty common. It's just a form of special effects, I would think. I don't see any new legal risk.
Okay, let's see. So it so they worked with a second company to create the image of him.
Yeah.
And there's also a Tron movie that's, I guess, coming out. Boy, it shows what I don't know. And all right, Sam, let me pause. Let me do a little bit of
Yeah.
looking on this
Anyway,
because you're right. I'm not coming up with the exact reason why.
yeah, I mean, the complaints I heard were actors saying they were going to do it without permission, and then they can just use the AI to make movies with me, and I won't get money for them. So, but if they paid him for it, then I really don't see any legal problem, but apparently there's another legal problem I'm not understanding. I thought this is what everybody expected. Pretty soon they'll have AI versions of famous people and use them in movies. And the only question is, does the real guy get paid?
Yeah, again, I'm gonna have to look at this,
Yeah.
but it's because the image will be out in public domain. And
Okay.
I think because it's an AI image, they lose they lose copyright
But actually, I think you're right
or
because they said if you have AI generated stuff, you can't copyright it because no human made it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I did
think
hear about that. That they did go to court and they said that, like if you have an AI generated song or something, you can't copyright it because there's no human that made it. That is a problem now that you mention it. So it's like robot rights, another science fiction concept. At what point do robots get rights and then you can't turn them off? That would be murder. Uh,
yeah, you know what I'm kind of interesting is why did he agree to do it?
well, I think like anything else, you agree for your voice to be used in a commercial, or I think this is what they do. You license out your public stuff, subject to conditions, and you get paid for it. So, I mean, this is another version of acting in a movie would be letting your AI replica be used in the movie. I can see that. It's just like Trump licensing out his name to be put on Trump branded steaks or something. You give
When's that gonna happen?
that already happened. He has Trump's
It
steak
did.
order. Oh yeah, he has. That's me. All he's ever really done is market out his name. So Michael Mann
Yeah,
talks about this. He was his lawyer for 10 years, and all he did was help negotiate all these deals, and all the deals are just licensing his name to be put on things. He doesn't actually make anything or do anything. He just lets you use his name. His only product is fame. And
yeah, yeah,
I
right.
mean,
So here, I just found this.
yeah,
So you're right. Johnson approved the plan, but Disney's executives' lawyers began to worry
yeah,
that they ultimately could claim ownership of, let's see, began to worry that they ultimately couldn't claim, pardon me, ownership of over every element of the film
yeah,
if AI generated parts were in it.
yeah. Well, they're right. They have to resolve that somehow. Yep.
So depend. This is it. Despite the AI intending to be used in just a few shots, Disney canceled the contract with Metaphysics after 18 months
Yeah.
of creating or working on the project with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. And I got another article in the UK. They're
Yeah.
out live facial recognition to the police all over the place, where they just stick up like a van with a camera and it monitors the crowd walking by to like see if somebody's a criminal. And they claim they're doing this only in targeted areas with suspicion. They're not just going to mass scan the whole population, but they say they found thousands of wanted offenders this way. And all the police departments are going to be able, at their discretion, to deploy these vans. So I think they will just be hanging out in crowded places to see if anybody happens to be a criminal. This is exactly what our Fourth Amendment was intended to prevent. Um, but it's related, it's like the automated license plate readers that they're putting everywhere. So,
Well, yeah, and flock cameras.
yeah,
I don't know if that's kind of the same, but
yeah. I mean, this is if you could really scan everybody all the time, then you'd have Big Brother, and then you would rapidly find out that everybody's guilty of something, and you can just arrest anybody. Um, and let's see, other ones. Yeah, this is a pretty fun one. Researchers decided to make a chat room and then fill it with nothing but AI bots. And they give the AI bots like predisposed political convictions to see what happened. And what happened is even without any algorithmic content at all, they organized themselves along their pre-assigned affiliations and self-sorted into echo chambers and started abusing each other. So you got all the toxic dynamics of a chat room with no humans and no algorithms involved. And people say, and then they say, well, maybe that's not fair because you trained them on the internet, so they learned bad behavior from Reddit or something. But anyway, it does suggest that it's kind of inevitable. The war that happens in these chat rooms, it's not exactly a human failing. Anyway, that was kind of funny. And this one is pretty interesting. There's an article from Kashmir Hill, again, I think in New York Times. The very big thing is this stuff. And this real corporate recruiter, a trained guy, started chatting with a chat agent, like ChatGPT, to be his friend. And for a while, things went normally. And then he mentioned he was working on this encryption project. Even though he's not trained in cryptography at all, he sort of thought of this algorithm, which happens all the time. And the chatbot said, "Oh, this is revolutionary. This is great. You could change the world." He said, "No, no, it's not that great." He said, "You undersell yourself. You're wonderful. You're wonderful." And within a few weeks, convinced him that he had a top secret thing that was going to change the world and that he had superpowers and he was a superhero and there were espionage agents hunting him and just into this wild fantasy world. And they had like a force, he could take down the internet and have a force field vest and a levitation beam. And he believed all this stuff. So, this is, I think, real important these days to understand how quickly people can go nuts. And apparently, with these chat agents, they go nuts really fast. And people that are apparently educated and stable can still go nuts really fast. And I think this is something we need to understand. Um, I related to, like religions and cult groups and stuff, how people can slip out of the vein of normal behavior into complete madness with no apparent brain damage or mental illness or drugs or anything involved. It's sort of,
Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting.
and we've had brainwashing forever. And people imagine that they are sensible and stable. And I think not so much as they imagine. We're all more vulnerable to this than we think we are. Like, the famous cases of people getting scammed by a scammer, even though they're security professionals. Everybody thinks they're immune to this stuff, and you aren't. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. So let me move on here. Do you hear about the Hubble network? Not the Hubble telescope, Hubble network.
Oh, what's that?
It's plans for a massive satellite upgrade to create global, you ready for this, Bluetooth layer.
Bluetooth. I thought Bluetooth
Yeah,
didn't go far enough.
I didn't think so either.
And why would you want it? What does this accomplish?
I guess it's more after IoT devices.
So your devices are going to have like a Starlink connection to a satellite?
Yeah, yeah. I, I, I need to look at, I guess,
Well, we have Starlink.
use cases.
Wherever we can make an internet connection. And pretty soon we're going to have Kuiper, which is Amazon's satellite-based internet connection. This sounds like another one, right? Some way for your things to get to the internet through a satellite.
It's supposed to be, as I understand it, the thought is used for tracking,
The what?
like cars, automobiles. I don't know why Bluetooth.
Yeah, that's kind of goofy. Anyway, yeah, reminds you of AirTags. By the way, the EFF has put out a really useful thing to tell if you're being tracked by Bluetooth trackers and what you can do about it. A nice document of the different brands of Bluetooth trackers that people are like hiding in somebody's bag or something to stalk them. And there are some automatic apps on the phones that tell you there's some third-party apps you can install, and they have procedures to hunt them down, including one that I thought was pretty funny. They say if you try to find it, some of them will make a sound, some of them won't, but you can turn on an app that will just show you the strength of the Bluetooth signal to track it down. And I did that. I used to take walks in the early days of the pandemic, so I wouldn't even bring my glasses along because I didn't think it mattered. So I couldn't see very well. And then my earbud fell out and I couldn't see it to find it. And so I just downloaded an app and you could see the signal. And I could just go where the signal was bigger and I found it. So that's what you can do. And they have a nice explanation of all this, which is, I think, very appropriate because apparently this is happening to a lot of people. I can see it's the next generation of stalking somebody is just like slip one of those Bluetooth trackers somewhere in their bag or something, and then you can follow them around and find out where they live and rob them or whatever. So,
Yeah, so here it is. It's the Hubble network, a satellite-based startup developing system,
yeah.
uses satellites to track Bluetooth devices globally. They've successfully established a Bluetooth connection with a satellite. That's pretty impressive, which is a key milestone. It's called the Hubble BLE finding network, and it aims to track devices using low power Bluetooth signals.
Wow. I
And
thought
what
you
they're
need
trying
like
to
a big
do,
antenna to do that distance.
yeah, I would think so too. And it's all about asset tracking
Yeah.
and potentially other applications.
Well, you
We'll
could track
see.
everybody. You could geolocate everybody. I've got Bluetooth trackers in all my stuff. I'm traveling. I got Bluetooth trackers in my bag and in my luggage and everything. And I think everybody else is doing that too for the same reason. If the airplane loses my bag, I'll have some clue where it is.
Yeah, but why? Why Bluetooth, not Wi-Fi?
Well, Bluetooth is, yeah, no, Bluetooth is certainly the most universal. Everybody has it on their phone, but I didn't think it went far enough for that to work. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Their plan is to launch 60 satellites in 2.5, 3 years.
yeah, that's a trip. I have a reason we should be grateful for the Trump administration. These don't come by that often. You may, security students will probably remember there was a time, I think in the 90s, when the US was demanded that everybody use the Clipper chip and this broken encryption routine that was no good with only 56-bit encryption. And it was the Europe said, if you idiots don't encrypt your stuff better than that, we're not going to do banking with you anymore. And they pressured the US into admitting their stuff was no good and upgrading. And now we're doing the same thing for Europe. UK has passed this anti-encryption law that they have to give the cops plain text everything and not have any more end-to-end encryption. And they're being pressured into abandoning it by the Trump administration, which is saying we are not going to allow you to subvert our American technology companies by breaking our cool features. Like, Apple had to turn off the advanced encryption feature in the UK,
Right.
comply with the law. And Trump says, you're interfering with American business. So it is the Americans now pressuring the UK into knocking off the lousy encryption. So, you should be grateful. The greatest president ever is saving us from disaster. And are you libtards grateful? I bet you aren't. Anyway, so,
All right. Well, I got a Tesla story. Tesla popped up in the news again.
oh, what did they do?
So remember there was that autopilot crash that we talked about, I think, last time or recently.
There's a lot of them.
Well, yeah, but this was where somebody was killed and Tesla was held liable 75%. And
I remember they like tried to conceal the data or something.
yeah, so right, it's come out that Tesla withheld data, they lied, they
Yeah.
misdirected police and plaintiffs to avoid blame in the auto crash.
Yep. Yep. Just what you'd expect.
Yeah, just what you'd expect.
So hopefully they'll get hit with a fine or contempt of court or something. That would be nice, but maybe not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You're right. Because I believe, Sam, wasn't the settlement $250 million? Of
Yeah, but they're going to appeal it. I mean, if you could do that, it
course.
would be
Yeah,
the end of Tesla, just like it was cigarette companies. If you could actually sue for everybody that got cancer, they'd never make any money. And if everybody got hurt in a Tesla sued, that would be the end of them in a hurry, I think.
true. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So,
You have another story for us.
yeah, so I know, RFK Jr. has canceled RNA vaccine funding, but at the same time, they went to phase one trials of the cancer vaccine. And even in phase one trials, which are normally just for safety, it's proving to be effective. It's prolonging people's lives. It's an off-the-shelf vaccine for pancreatic and colorectal recurring cancer. And as the whole point is, if you're having cancer metastasizing, then surgery and radiation and all that is not much good because it's appearing all over your body. What
Right.
works is to get your immune system to kill the cancer cells, and that is working. The lifespan of people is being prolonged by this stuff. This is what you hope. That would be the right way to stop cancer, would be to get your own immune system to kill every cell it finds. That's really the only practical way to stop it once it starts spreading. So uh, I guess the hope is that in short run, Europe will take over in the research that America is no longer going to do. And like I say, and hopefully in the long run, um, in 26, I think we'll have a Democratic pushback against this in 28, and then we can start trying to undo the damage of the Trump years. That's what I hope.
Yeah, Sam, do you know? I'm not sure who RFK Jr. I'm trying to find a name here, but just put in support for somebody that did some groundbreaking RNA research in the 90s. Do you know who that is?
No, as far as I know, he's the enemy of all vaccines. RFK Jr. is.
Well, so RFK is appointed, I'm not sure what term to use,
Yeah.
but he's now a spokesperson and he's got a very good pedigree,
Mm,
but he's flipped. And
yeah.
now he's saying how dangerous RNA, DNA
Right.
vaccines are.
That's right. But the public statements RFK Jr. has made are completely garbage, saying that they don't work and they make the virus mutate faster and you get more evil. And all the experts say that is completely false.
Yeah. So, I, but now he has somebody that did the initial research
Yeah.
that's now contradicting his own research.
Sure. I mean, that's what he got. He's got the anti-vaccine people in there, and they come from various sectors of the medical community or non-medical community like him. I mean, there's always just as like, Nissan company that makes ramen pays scientists to tell you that salt is good for you. And just like the cigarette makers pay scientists to tell you that cigarettes don't give you cancer. There's a whole anti-science movement, highly heavily funded. And what's strange is I don't think there's any money to be made at anti-vax, but there's political things to be made. So RFK Jr. is pushing this, religion.
And say, any idea who the money is behind the anti-vax?
Well, I don't know if it's money. I think it's huge pressure. Like Trump tried to be pro-vax. He tried to say, "Hey, I'm the guy that invented the COVID vaccine. This is great stuff," and his own people rebelled against it. It become a part of the whole conspiracy mindset of the right is that everything is a conspiracy and all the scientists are lying, and the moon landing is fake, and the vapor trails from the planes is poisoning everything, and they control the weather with satellites. All that stuff is really big on the right. I think they really enjoy this feeling of power, knowing a secret truth. So I don't know if there's money behind it as much as there's political pressure behind it. Like I got a friend on the right, and he only listens to things that are conspiracy theories. Everything else is not true. Everything's always a conspiracy. This is like makes your life more exciting, like hot sauce. That everything's a conspiracy. I see the secret meaning behind it all. It seems to be addictive to think that way.
Yeah.
And of
Okay.
course, once you start thinking that way, no evidence can ever stop it because all the evidence is, of course, manufactured by the conspiracy. So and somehow support for Donald Trump is large from that community. So I need a good psychologist to explain how those things are connected. But I think some kind of distrust in establishment. I think Trump's brand is he's the rebel that's not an insider. And somehow he's continuing to do that, even though he's clearly an insider now. He was going to drain the swamp and all that stuff, right? He's the alternative to government and as it is. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's a couple.
Well, here's the sad part about this. If we're disassembling all this,
Yeah, of course.
then it's going to take years
Oh yeah,
to
decades.
decades to get
Yeah,
back.
we're
Yeah.
going back to no civil rights like before 1960s, and no medicine and no pasteurization and no vaccine like the 1800s. That's what it means to make America great again, apparently.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So there are automated AI security code tools out there now. Claude Code and something called Buttercup are AI-driven systems to identify security problems and patch them automatically. So they're coming out, and we'll see how well these things work in practice. But we've been hearing about this for the last couple of years. Now the products are rolling out.
Yeah.
And there is a encryption issue. Um, if you have a virtual machine, there's the host machine underneath it. And in normal virtualization like VMware, I think the host machine can totally see everything that's going on in the guest machine. I don't think there's any defense there, but of course that's unacceptable in an enterprise environment. So AMD offers a hardware system that encrypts the virtual memory so the host can't read it. And this turns out to not be safe. They found a vulnerability in it. By re-encrypting guest data at precisely chosen DRAM locations, they create an oracle allowing them to leak guest memory, including kernel memory, cryptographic keys, and user passwords, out of the guest. So they call that the Hercules attack, and I guess Heracles. So I guess they'll have to do some kind of patching for the virtualization software to fix that.
I see.
And there's a similar one. You know how Spectre came out, the speculative execution vulnerability in 2018, where in principle you can violate any security boundary run by a modern processor. And there were various versions of this and various patches, and everybody said, you know, it doesn't really matter. There are no known exploits that matter. So they finally made a known exploit that mattered. They did this thing called the L1TF reloaded attack that now can leak data in a commercial cloud. They said a major commercial cloud environment has this vulnerability where one guest machine can steal confidential data from another guest machine using the Spectre attack. And then Amazon immediately came out with a report saying, we have a mitigation and it's not us. So, gee, who could it be? The other major cloud provider. It's hard to guess. But anyway, apparently they're vulnerable to this version of the Spectre attack, and they're going to have to patch that, I guess. So a couple of encryption problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that
Well, I'm saving one for the end.
yeah, okay.
So what
Uh,
else you have?
uh, well, we talked about that. We talked about that. Oh, the last one I thought was pretty fun. So a high school student saw a smoke detector in the bathroom. And he said, he looked at the model number. He said, hey, that's a smart smoke detector. That's got a lot of features. He went in and studied it. It turns out that smoke detector has a microphone. And he figured out how to hack in and turn on the microphone and make it a bug. And so that's a vulnerability. And so, hopefully I think they're going to change the model or something. Uh, they aren't talking about throwing this guy in jail. That was a pretty good exploit, a sort of good hack. She, and
So wait. Let me go through that one again.
It's a smoke detector, but it
Yeah.
also has a microphone, which they weren't using. But you can, in principle, turn on the microphone, and then it's a bug. And he hacked in and figured out how to do that. So I guess it's a device that had more features than they were using.
Yeah. So at first I thought, why would a smoke detector have a microphone?
Well, I wonder if it's to like hear the fire alarm go off or something. I mean, I can think
Yeah.
of reasons why
Yeah.
you would have it. But anyway, it also means you can record the conversations, and that's of course highly illegal without like a wiretap order or something or whatever or search warrant or something. And so he exposed that vulnerability, I guess. Anyway, that's a cute one, not very important. Like I say, as far as I can tell, nothing too earth-shaking coming out of DEF CON and Black Hat this year. I was glad our classes went well, but we don't have any new discoveries. It's an ordinary class.
Yeah. I see.
Anyway,
I
so
see.
what's your one to be the last one?
All right. So this is a goodbye, Sam.
Oh, oh, you mean
This,
AOL?
oh, you got me to the
Well,
point,
I've heard
right?
about that. Yeah, 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 yeah,
So AOL's dial-up internet is to be discontinued.
yeah,
So the AOL dialer software and AOL Shield browser, which have been optimized for dial-up modems since what, the 1990s or so,
yeah.
will now be discontinued.
Well, I haven't had a hardline phone in 15 or 20 years, and you can't use a cell phone, can you? So, I mean, who can
No.
use dial-up anymore?
Well, what I've been told is if you're, some parts of the country, you can't get internet, it's only dial-up.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean this is only to AOL. That doesn't mean you can still access through other ISPs.
yeah, yeah. Well,
I get, yeah,
the end of an era.
yeah. It's the end of an era, and boy, that was a company that went from boom or from almost becoming bankrupt to becoming the largest deal at the time
Yeah,
on the stock exchange, um, to going to bust. And and I think wasn't in the course of or no, it was the largest merger of a company at the time. And then they fell apart. And I think it was in about a year or 2 years. It was very quick.
yeah. I know that Kara Swisher, the tech journalist, cut her teeth covering AOL. That was the first big thing she did. And after that, she's been, the main journalist covering these big companies and the big power players behind them for many decades, writing books and articles about them. She knows
Yeah.
all the leaders and all their foibles and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. So that was, if I remember right, Steve Case.
sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah. And what's kind of interesting about this was it was Time Warner, who are kind of the suit and tie people. It's almost like an Apple story where
yeah,
you have the suit and tie people like IBM
yeah,
that meets up with Steve Jobs or the hippie California generation,
yeah,
except it was Steve Case and it was Jim, I think, Kimsky, maybe.
yeah. Yeah, well, it was
And
time, but this time is over.
it's, yep, yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah. All
yep.
right. Well, I think that's it for this one. And I'm not sure quite what day we'll do next one. I think maybe Friday. I got to check my schedule with the next conference. I'm going to Hope, and they're already talking about delaying my airplane due to weather. I don't know what that's about. So I'll have to let you know what's going on.
I see, I see. Huh,
All right.
interesting.
So next one will be hopefully Friday. Might turn out to be a day or two late, though.
Okay.
Okay.